For the YouTube subscribers. Well, subscribe already. Hit the fucking like button, subscribe, or I knock your ass out, man. I ain't fucking with
you, man. UFC Vegas 70 span versus Krylov in Las Vegas back at the Apex. Much better card than last week. Probably one of the worst cards on paper we saw last week. Turned out to be somewhat of a dud. This week a little better. I like some fights here, but still at the end of the day, it's a UFC Vegas card. I'll briefly recap last week. Also, of course, break down all the fights on the main card, free picks, leans, and what to avoid. SystemSportsCapping.com is the website to receive my personal plays in all sports, guys. I'm currently handicapping UFC, NHL, NBA, PGA, and MLB is around the corner. MLB Future card will be coming out sometime in March, probably close to mid to end of March. System capping on all social media platforms. Give me a follow over there, Instagram, Twitter, and even new on TikTok as well. I give some free plays out there if you want to give me a follow. So TikTok for years, or at least a year, I didn't want to do it. But, you know, a lot of people are telling me, marketing guys, to get on there. So I'm getting on there, just doing some short videos, posting big ticket wins, etc. UFC Vegas 69 recap. Let's do a quick recap. Not going to be a long one, you know. The only thing I can say is, you know, I'm impressed by Blanchfield. Impressive win, right? She proves she deserves, you know, to get that title shot any fight now. She beat a legit Andrade who, yes, was coming in on short notice. So I do give her some slack. Love to see Andrade on a full camp against her. First round was entertaining, right? She was able to keep on the feet, catch Blanchfield a little bit. Blanchfield was able to stand there, but then got it to where she wants and got the submission, right? And now you got to say Blanchfield's the number one contender, right? You have to. Maybe she fights Valentina Grosso winner. I'd like to see that. Definitely excited to see what Blanchfield has in the future. She could be a contender for a long time or a champion as well. Could she beat Valentina right now? I say no. You never know, though, right? You never know. So she did pass the test against Andrade on short notice, but that's definitely an impressive win there. Another fight to mention, Hernandez and Miller. That was a good fight. That was a fun fight. I was surprised wasn't surprised Hernandez won. I leaned the Hernandez way. Just hard to bet Hernandez at that price, right? It was minus 220, minus 250 if I remember. Tough to put your money on there when Hernandez is just up and down, right? So Miller, you know, he showed a ton of toughness in that fight. He almost got a submission at the end of the fight. So always tough to bet against Miller. That's why I stayed away from that fight. I didn't see going all three rounds, and that was my one loss that cost me there. I did have that fight not to go all three rounds in a two-fight distance parlay, and then both Knight and Wright got cut, and I agree with that, right? Wright, Knight, both guys didn't show up. Bad performance from both of them. UFC pulled the plug on them. Happy they did. Weekly update. Let's do a weekly update here. Not a card I liked last week, which I do mention. I am straightforward with you guys. When I don't like a card, I tell you, and I usually stay away from most. I had a small card, no profit last week. We did hit on the main event, not to go the distance, but I mentioned it earlier here. Miller Hernandez, I had not going the distance, and it did. So we lost that one here. First card with no profit on the year. We're 4-5 profitable cards to start the year. 9-3 on the year. And just under 60 units long-term profit. NHL, 76 and 39 last 2 years, guys. It's 67%. Our first losing week in months in the NHL, just barely by like 0.3 units or whatever it was. Continue to beat the books in the NHL long term. NBA lower volume, 59-33. NBA was on a break for about a week there. Should be back up, trying to find some value heading into this weekend. NFL reminder, we know we had a great playoffs, guys. Profitable all weekends. Super Bowl, we also know we hit that big outright plus 1,100 on the KC over Eagles exact final at the start of the playoffs. Just under 11 units in profit in the playoffs alone, guys. That's 3-4 weeks, right? And over the entire year, just over 20 units in profit. The last two seasons combined, guys, 60 units of profit in the NFL, guys. Obviously, the much bigger year was a year ago, not this past season, but combined. We're looking at just over 60 units in the NFL. PGA has been the slow starter to start the year. We just missed out on Homa, guys. Plus 2,200 last week. He finished second in that one. Driver let him down on the back nine. It was unfortunate to see because he would have won at home, which would have been nice. But good value there, plus 2,200. I couldn't pass up that outright. Let's hear from my friend Meredith before we get into this card.
Guys, Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Shop around for the best prices, guys. Shop around, have multiple books, get the best price, get the best prop out there, get the best round betting out there, have multiple books. Main event, Krylov minus 170 versus Span plus 145. Interesting one here where I have two guys who like to try to get out of the fight in the first round. Krylov, a little bit of some adjustments as of late for Krylov in his style, but Span, right? Span hasn't got out of the first round in 5 straight fights, going back to 2020. 3 finishes, one even by submission, and he does have sneaky submission game. Not a lot of people talk about it. He has that submission over Kutalaba. His last win, was over Reyes. Nice win there to get on his resume. But most of an impressive one, right? He has a win over Serkinov in that span as well. Krylov, he looks to finish fights also early. Very aggressive in the first round. As of late, like I mentioned at the top here, he's been using his wrestling more. Very good wrestler. Very strong. He likes to have the top control. And he's been going deeper in fights because of that. 3 decisions in his last 5 fights. Seems like Krylov is fighting a lot smarter. That's what the issue always was with him. He doesn't fight smart. Right? But he's been fighting a little smarter now. Smarter now. Krylov, he'll have a wrestling advantage here. He should be able to take down Span if he wants to. And that's going to be interesting to hear because, Span can work off his back. 12 submissions in MMA, and not a lot of people talk about that. He has a submission game, guys. And obviously, Span also could hurt you on the feet if he's able to keep this fight standing. Krylov has some power as well. He will come forward. But Span has that TKO knockout power. Keep that in mind. So when I see a guy that has 2 paths to win this fight, one by submission and one by, standing, hurting him on the feet, you got to say there's some value here with Span at plus 145. Right? Krylov, like I mentioned, yes, he could wrestle him. He showed he can do that against the Ozdemir. I didn't love the fight for him. I did think he won because he was able to out wrestle him and out maneuver him, but it was an impressive win. Ozdemir, tough guy, yes, but I wasn't too impressed from what I saw from Krylov. Right, minus 170. I guess I would have it maybe more minus Krylov minus 150. I wouldn't say it's way off minus 140, but I do think there's value with Span when I have a guy that can win the fight 2 ways, right? Sometimes you have guys that can just win by knockout. Maybe he'll catch the guy. But I have Span as a very good submission artist, and he could find a submission because Krylov likes to get the fight down to the ground. We saw what happened with Krylov against Paul Craig. Krylov kept it on the ground too long, and Craig was able to find the submission. Now, I'm not going to put Craig I'm going to have to say Craig the better submission artist over Span, but Span's right there. Span has 12 submissions, like I said, in his MMA career. That's more than half of his fight wins, right? So you got to keep that in mind here, guys. So if it gets to the ground, Span has that power also to hurt you on the feet. There is some value here, right? Krylov obviously fought everyone in this division, right? He's fought the better guys. It's just been up and down in his career. Even though he's on a nice win streak here, he's just been very up and down in his UFC career here, right? I get why he's favorite. I do think he should be favorite. I just think that there is some value here on Span. I'm going to lean Span here due to the price. Hasn't made my client card as of yet. Will it? I'm not too sure as of right now. If it is, it would be a smaller unit because obviously I have Krylov, he can win this fight, right? I have it around closer to maybe 55-45 Krylov. So that's where I see some value with Span due to the 2 ways that he can win this fight. The best play obviously in this fight is fight not to go the distance, but you got to pay up. Right? You got to pay up big time for that. No way this fight goes 5 rounds. Neither guy has ever fought 5 rounds. Both guys are probably going to look to finish this fight early. So that's the best play in this fight. If you want to throw it on one of your parlays, but It's very highly priced, and for good reason. Excited to see what happens in this fight. Co-main's a good fight too. I like this co-main event, especially compared to last week's co-main event. This is a much better co-main. Munez minus 220 versus Allen plus 180. Another big price here where I do see value on the underdog. 8-fight win streak, 5-0 in the UFC for Munoz. Allen has been very up and down in the UFC, but he's got it going now. He's got it going. Sneaky 3-fight win streak with 2 submissions in there. Right, his path here is to keep the fight on the feet. Right, he's going to be the better striker. Most guys against Munoz is going to be a better striker, but we know how good Munoz is on the ground. One of the best in the UFC. If he gets his fight down to the ground, he could find his submission. Allen just doesn't get submitted much. Like once, I think, in the past 6-7 years. Munoz is going to have to try to get this fight to the ground. This is a simple type of fight to handicap, guys. Is Munoz going to be able to get down to the ground? Can Allen keep the fight standing? If Allen can keep the fight standing, he can hurt Munoz. So that's going to be this fight. You're banking on Munoz getting this fight down to the ground. He probably will find a submission if it gets there. But Allen has some decent defense there. So I could see Allen, winning this as an underdog at plus 180. I cannot bet Munoz at minus 220. If you're going to bet Munoz, I think you should find a submission prop. You can probably get plus money on it. So that would be the look for me if I was backing Munoz. But even though I slightly lean Munoz, I think the value is here with Allen. If you can especially shop around and get at plus 190 or something, there's some value there. It's just you're banking on Munoz getting his fight down to the ground and getting his submission, in my opinion. Could he get Allen down to the ground and just, win on points like he did against Uriah Hall last time out? Yeah, he could do that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he could do that, but I think Allen's going to be able to get up. I don't think Munoz can just keep Allen down on the ground there. So there is some value with Allen. Munoz, the rightful favorite. I just have Munoz maybe more minus 160, 150. So again, I'm finding value on the lines. I think these lines are a little off, where I see just Allen being the better striker and Allen having the chance to keep this fight on the feet. He has a good chance to keep this fight on the feet. Where Munoz, you're just banking in, getting it down to the ground, keeping him there, and maybe finding a submission throughout the fight. Right? So there's value here on Allen. Sakai, minus 135 versus Mays, plus 115. This is an ugly one, guys. I feel about mid-tier, low-tier, in this case, heavyweight fights. Right? This is it here. Sakai, he just continues to get tough fights, guys. All right, Sakai will be cut if he loses this fight, in my opinion. He's lost 4 in a row. One time highly rated, right? That's why they were giving him tough matchups. He was highly rated in his division at times, but look at the fights that they're giving him, right? They start off with Overeem in this 4-fight win streak. Overeem is one of the better heavyweights of all time. Rosenstrike, tough guy to fight. Tuivasa, and then Spivak, right? All top 10 guys they're giving him. A couple top 5 guys in there, right? So that it's just the strength of schedule is very tough here. When you get Mays, he's fighting very low level guys, 2-2 in the UFC. Just very hard to back either guy here. It's just you're looking at Sakai fighting for his job, in my opinion here. So I'm going to lean Sakai here. The price is decent. You get minus 135, minus 130. I don't mind that. So I'm going to lean Sakai for video purposes. Not going to get my money, though. Again, low-tier heavyweight fights, I usually pass on this fight. So from a client card standpoint, I'm passing. For video purposes, I lean Sakai due to that edge of, him fighting the much better guys. It's going to be the easiest fight he's had in a very long time, in my opinion. And he's fighting for his job. So that's my look here. Suarez, minus 800 versus De La Rosa, plus 550. Look who's back after 3 years, right? Suarez was just running through this division, if you guys remember, right? 8-0, big wins over Grasso, Esparza, and Nunez before she got hurt. Just a ton of injuries issues, right? Ton of issues. She does seem healthy now. I've been watching some of her training videos. Looks great. Excellent wrestler. We know where she's going to have the big advantage here. Fight stays standing. I think De La Rosa could hold her own, but Suarez is just going to want to wrestle, get this down to the ground. Look at the takedowns per fight, guys. Over 6. You don't see that much. And she's able to take her fighters down and just control her. That's what I think is going to happen here. Again, you know what I usually do? 3-year-long layoffs. Anything over 2, I get concerned. It's just Suarez is so dominant in one category in the wrestling. I don't think she's going to have a big problem. She didn't lose her wrestling because of her injuries, right? So So what I expect her to just take down this fight down to the ground, control her. They're very tough to call an outcome here, though. Very tough, right? At minus 800, you can't bet that. But what I do like is, Suarez probably to either find a late finish or just grind out a decision win unanimous. Very tough to find an outcome. I'm usually good at finding outcomes here, but hold your horses here. It's a 3-year layoff. Let's see how she looks first before betting her. And at minus 800, very tough. I get it. She's just going to control her probably on the ground. I understand what's probably going to happen in this fight. But De La Rosa is fairly decent, well-rounded. Yes, Suarez is going to get this down to the ground, but is Suarez going to be able to find a submission? I don't know, right? She's been off for 3 years. Maybe she's found some submission game. Maybe she can get a TKO finish. I get it. It's just tough to find an outcome here, in my opinion. So Suarez wins this fight, yes, mainly due to her wrestling, but very tough to call an outcome. Hard to bet this fight at minus 800. We got a Canadian matchup. Canadian matchup in this next fight. You don't see that often. Malott minus 220 versus Lanez plus 180. Plus 180, guys. Malott, he's more the hype guy here out of these two. Won the Dana White Contender Series, and in his UFC debut, he's knocked out Mickey Gall, a veteran, who can be a tough fight at times, right? So that's a good win for him. Lanez also won the Dana White Contender Series, but he lost his first UFC fight. Came back, but lost to Gabe Green, very low-level guy. He did bounce back and got a nice win over Weeks in his last fight. I just have him a lot better everywhere. After watching tape, knowing Malott, I have him better everywhere. Lanez's path, in my opinion, is only to catch him, right? Malott has some durability issues at times in his fights that I've saw. So Lanez's path here would be to catch him. It's possible. But when I see a guy that only has one path, in my opinion, to beat him, and it's to catch him with a clean shot, I like to take the other guy just because I do have him winning, 70% of the time in this spot. Close to 75, I would say. So I like Malott here. The price is okay to maybe put in a 2-fight parlay. Hard to call an outcome. Here. So I would have to take the juice here and put in a 2-fight parlay if I were to bet Malott. I just have him better everywhere. And maybe durability could be an issue at times. Lanez's path only is to catch him and finish him. So I'm going to have to take Malott here. I do think he's a better prospect out of the two. Gonzalez plus 160 versus Peak minus 190. Speaking of prospect, we have another one here in Peak. Peak 7-0, which would make his UFC debut after a finish on Dana White Contender Series. Very durable guy. He got hurt in that fight, but he was able to come back. And that's what he's the type of guy. He's type of like a street fighter, hard-nosed, very durable guy. Not a ton of accolades. Right? No black belt here. No wrestling college accolades. He's just tough guy. Likes to brawl. He'll keep coming forward. Some, I guess, cardio concerns, but very durable. You're not going to finish the guy. And I do think he's going to have more volume in this fight. He's going to throw more. If it does get the decision, I think you'll be able to show more heart in this fight and show more volume, right? Gonzalez, very up and down. He has 7 losses in MMA career, guys, right? So I think this is a good fight that UFC is giving Peak. To start his career, they like him. They like he's durable, scrappy. It's a type of Dana White guy, right? He'll come in, put his heart on the line. He's willing to die in the ring. Type of guy like that, He's not going to always be the better skilled mixed martial arts guy when he's fighting somebody. But he's going to have that heart. He's going to have that grind. And he's willing to die in there. So, yeah, I like Peak here in this spot. I do think it's a good matchup for him. I'm not high on Gonzalez. I do think Peak finds a way here. Tough to call if it's going to be a finish or a unanimous decision here. But I think Peak gets it done either way. Excited to see how he looks in his UFC debut. That's the only one concern, right? Gonzalez more experience, right? 21 fights, Peak 7. That's something to be a little concerned about. Can't go all in on Peak because of that. But Peak may make my betting card at some point this weekend for clients. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Hopefully you enjoy UFC Vegas 70. We have a big pay-per-view card coming up in March. I'm looking forward to that. We'll obviously have a breakdown video for that. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits.